Here's my game of the day from round 7 of the Tata Steel tournament. And I've gone with Viswanathan Anand with white against Vladimir Kramnik. Two players that know each other extremely well. They've played in tournaments since they were very young, and they've contested a World Championship match together, and they're actually very good friends. But that doesn't stop them having good fights at the chessboard. Anand played a gioco piano, and all very regular so far. Anand played a4, and this seems to be the trend these days, to advance the a-pawn at quite an early stage. I'm not absolutely convinced by this, I have to say, but listen, these guys know what they're doing, apparently. Of course, one can simply castle here, or c3 is the normal move as well. Anyway, a4, and now c3, and a6. So this is all very subtle stuff. And now Vichy played bishop g5. In the Zurich Chess Challenge last April, the two players had exactly this position, and Anand castled here, and, well, didn't get much from the opening. It kind of surprises me that if white is going to advance on the queen side like this, then he doesn't follow up with b4 straight away and then simply castle or knight d2. I mean, this has been played, but it feels consistent at the very least. But Anand played bishop g5, and, well, we've noted before that this is a very trendy way to play the position, to establish this provocative pin, and that tempts black into advancing with h6 and g5, pushing the bishop back, but that creates weaknesses. And you might remember in Anand's first round game in this tournament, against Matlakov, he played a Spanish. Just let me do a quick compare and contrast. And actually he played in a very, very similar strategy. Now the only difference is that with the Spanish is that black is tempted to advance on the queen side, and that can have its downside because it gives white something to bite on with a4. And now Vichy played bishop g5, and indeed Matlakov was provoked into advancing straight away with g5. So back to this game. But you can see the similarities here. So let me just clear some colour off the board. Bishop g5, h6. And now Kramnik waited, so he just withdrew the bishop just in case b4 or d4 were to come. And he's kind of waiting actually, and again, I mean, black can already advance with g5. But he plays queen e7, and it's a clever move. He's not committing himself straight away, but he might play g5. He might play bishop e6. He might even be thinking about castle's queen side. And the queen certainly doesn't stand badly on e7, but yeah, it's a wait and see move. And white can castle here. You can play b4, but Vichy played h3. I mean, I'm not sure I'm very reluctant to criticise these guys. You know, they are fantastically strong. But it seems to me that this gives g5 more force. This is what happens, what happened in the game, and knight h5. And this position has been reached on a few occasions, but black has excellent results here. So, for example, with bishop h2, then the knight has just come in. And this is a very dangerous piece. Or knight f1 and knight f4 again, and white had to play, well, the ignominious rook g1. And this seems to me black has a very pleasant initiative. If white is going to tempt g5, it seems to me that white should be ready to get a knight in, let's say on e3, to cover these squares, and then you can see the positional disadvantage of playing g5. But here the best Vichy could come up with after 10 minutes thought was Queen E2. And now black could play knight f4 straight away, but Kramnik played Queen f6. So it's almost like another waiting move actually. It's not exactly clear what white should be doing. So he might take on g3, he might come to f4. Well, after bishop h2, Kramnik decided to come into f4, and well, you can't live with this knight. Queen f4 is possible, but gf4 seems natural. And I have to say, if I were black in this position, I think I would feel delighted with the outcome of the opening, because he has this absolutely wonderful bishop that can't be opposed, raking across the board, and this wonderful pawn chain, just emphasizing this dark square control. Now I know Vichy likes his knights, but I think the problem in this position is that it's not easy for these knights to find good outposts. And, well, Vichy tried to neutralize pressure on the g file by putting g4 here. But maybe his best is to play castle's kingside and put up with the pressure on the g file, just play rook g1. And I mean, black has a kind of an obvious attacking idea, bishop d7, you know, try and double or even triple on the g file. But in the meantime, white can try to counterattack over here. It's a difficult way of playing for white, but that might be the best. Certainly in the game, this move g4 backfired. I mean, black has two very attractive ways of playing, the way that Kramnik played, but Kramnik could also just exchange en passant and perhaps go queenside with the king. You'll notice that this bishop has such a wonderful influence over the board, and h5 coming in just to attack g3. Of course, white does have counterplay on the f file. That is what Vichy would be relying on. Nevertheless, feels like another promising way for black to play. But it's interesting, Kramnik played in a very positional way, and he's trying not to allow any counterplay at all. Knight e7. So he spins the knight round to g6. And now Vichy's problem is, what should he do with his king? Obviously, going to the king side doesn't appeal when black has h5. But on the queen side, well, having advanced these pawns, you know, it's created this enormous vacuum. You know, if black one day breaks through, then the king is in huge trouble. Vichy played king d1, so he's leaving the rook here to protect this pawn and then hoping to find more security here. But h5 anyway from Kramnik. And this is tricky if white trades. Now we can see the point of spinning the knight round to g6 so that h4 isn't possible. And with this isolated pawn, obviously, you know, black has every chance of winning this pawn on h3. So after h5, Vichy played g5. He thought for some time over this. I mean, this also isn't completely satisfactory, because in fact these pawns, the h-pawn is still vulnerable. At least he's managed to close the position, and he looked for counterplay on the other side of the board. Now Kramnik needs to sort out his king, so he just shuffled to the side. Vichy exchanges and advances with d4 and king g7. So you can see that if you compare the position of the two kings, this is crucial to the game. Kramnik's king is safe. The king side is closed. This pawn on f7 and indeed this wonderful pawn chain, they offer the king excellent protection. Whereas white's king, I understand for the moment it's not being attacked, but it doesn't really have good pawn cover. The other thing is, I mean, Vichy, I think, sensed the danger and tried to close the position. If he hadn't done this, I mean, going, for example, right back to this position, then Kramnik could organise breaks with c6 and possibly even d5 later, or with a5 and b5. I think it would be very difficult for Vichy to keep this position closed. So back here, we're looking at the two kings. Anand tries to keep the position closed with d5. Bishop d7. Excellent move. This bishop looks at this pawn. It also looks at, well, both rook's pawns, and you can see that these rooks have a very lowly, menial task of merely protecting these two loose pawns. And now Kramnik puts his finger on the problem. He moves his rook to the open file, and white cannot contest with his rook. So that king can now feel the burn of that rook coming down the b file. It's very unpleasant. And here, well, there's a very obvious way for black to continue, and that's to break open the position with c6 and then, you know, possibly switch to the c file. Black is in control here. Well, another way would be simply to double on the b file as well. So Vichy tried to kind of stir things up with bishop takes a6, but bishop takes f2 was an obvious riposte. If queen takes, then rook takes bishop, and you can see this pawn is doomed. So after bishop takes f2, bishop b5. So Vichy tried to keep the position closed, but now Kramnik has this beautiful bishop anchored in the heart of white's position. Now h4 from Anand, so he wants to be able to free this rook, but you know, this move h4 doesn't solve white's problems on this side of the board entirely, because the knight still keeps an eye on the pawn, and that square is available for the bishop as well. So it's a very, very unpleasant position. And now Kramnik has the simple idea of doubling on the a file. That pawn is still loose. King b3, Anand trying to hold the position together. If he can make it through to an ending or something, then, you know, maybe he has a chance, but we're a long way from an ending, and this is what Kramnik is banking on, that at some moment he'll be able to break through into the heart of white's position to attack the king that doesn't really have proper pawn cover. Now, an excellent move from Kramnik. He sees the king on b3 and he thinks, okay, where would I like this knight? It's on a good square here, but it's on an even better square here. So he maneuvers the knight round to c5. Bishop g4, what a beautiful square. You can see black's minor piece is anchored wonderfully here. That's what minor pieces like. And Vichy's knights, they never get anywhere in this game. That's the problem. The king, he's feeling like this knight is about to enter the game, so steps back. And now Kramnik just trades and simplifies the position to bring this knight up to c5. So having got rid of a knight, that means this pawn is going to be vulnerable. And this is just a glorious position, the knight looking at both weak pawns. And king e1, the king trying to run away, but it's all in vain. And now Kramnik just sees a chance to bring his queen into the action. It's very simple the way he does this. Trades the knight and queen c8. And in this position, Anand resigned. And it's not premature. Let's see what happens. So let's say king f2, queen g4. You can't prevent that. Black just wants to take here, and well, if rook h1, this queen is actually overloaded. Knight takes pawn check and rook b2. It's very simple actually, and now the queen just breaks through, and that is justice. The king finally gets its comeuppance. So I mean, an absolutely brilliant strategic game from Kramnik, and finally Anand's good run comes to an end. It was going to happen one day, but I mean, he's been on brilliant form and still stands well in the tournament. So that victory brings Kramnik up to 4.5 points. He's on 4.5 with Giri, So and Carlsen. But a point ahead after 7 rounds, Shahriar Mamedyarov with 5.5 points. He defeated Wei Yi very easily. The other winners yesterday were Karyakin, who beat Caruana. Caruana having a really rough time, and Caruana just blundered a pawn out of the opening. And Carlsen defeated Ho Yifan. Mamedyarov in the lead with 5.5, and Adiban 1.5, and Ho Yifan 1, and Caruana on 2 points, having a really rough tournament. The big pairing of round 8 is Anish Giri against Shahriar Mamedyarov. Thanks for watching.